Okay, you guys back?
Yeah, I was already here. I'm
Okay,
having a problem, Yogesh. When I'm running the notifications and clicking on the button, I'm receiving only the log message that message has received, but not getting the extra notification that I have entered. What do I need to do in the my broadcast receiver file class?
okay, okay. We'll look at it. We'll implement the whole thing.
All right.
And so, why don't we start with you? You tell me what you have done so far.
Should I share my screen or sorry?
You could do that, or you could just walk me through it, and I will implement the same things and we will take it from there.
All
Let's do
right.
it that way so we see it being built.
So in the main activity, I have entered created an intent class. I have named it button intent. You can name it whatever you want.
Burden intent.
Button. You can name it anything. Yeah.
Okay, let's go with that. And it's you created a new intent past the current context,
Yeah.
right? Main activity dot this.
My broadcast receiver dot class.
Okay, good. So far, so
Yeah.
good.
So now I have called the burden intent dot set action, and in here I have done intent dot action get contact. There were too many. Like I don't know what the that was doing. Intent dot.
Action and then chose a parameter.
Yeah.
Get content. Okay.
I choose this one. Like I don't know. I think that this one does just represent our message received, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Let's take a look at what this is, right?
Yeah.
So intent dot set action. Let's see what this is doing. Set action, set the general action to be performed. An action name such as action view. Application's specific action should be prefixed with vendor's package name. So this is an intent, just like there is a set action, there should be a get, there is a get action. So you could use this to do
Okay.
something. So it doesn't really, since we are not going to be using it on the other side, we could get away with setting it to anything. But theoretically, you could choose one of those actions that are available, these constants like action view, etc. If we scroll up, we'll see a bunch of these declared, all starting with action underscore. This is like another parameter you could specify, action. So if your notification has this action attached to the intent, and then when we are doing in the broadcast receiver, we can decide how to process this action. That's what this line of code is doing. Okay, what's the next one?
Then put extra.
Put extra. And
Then here intent dot extra duration miles. I'll use
okay,
this.
you use, oh, perfect. Intent dot extra. What did you use?
Extra duration.
Extra duration. Good. So these are predefined duration milliseconds. Yeah, these are predefined names for the extras. So we can use these, or sometimes, those predefined ones won't work for us. So for example, if you are developing a messaging app and you've received a message, then you want to supply what the text of the message was or something specific which is not predefined, you can define your own string constants and use them here.
All right.
Okay, so what else did you put here?
Any value like
Any value.
I
So
just
what we
put 0.
wanted, yeah, good. Any value will also work. What we wanted was uh, current time in milliseconds, so that every time it is something different. Okay. And now what do we do? We've got an intent.
Now pending intent.
So we already have a variable called pending intent, right? So we will call this burden pending intent. Was this activity, this task too much of a burden, Ravi?
No,
I'm joking. Pending intent, and then what do we
like
do?
I was running deep through the documents in the Android developer or Android, so I didn't get where I got. So I think like
Oh,
just
okay.
leave it here and I will talk to the Yogesh.
Doesn't
So
matter.
yeah,
How do we get the
now
pending intent?
dot get broadcast.
Hit broadcast. So we need a context. We need the same four things, right? As we did. So we'll go with that. Is that how you did it? Main activity dot this
Yeah.
and request code. Did you specify anything?
No, like we did in the previous one, I did the same.
Yeah, so this is a request code that will be available on the other side. We can use the same, or we can, let's say, we can go with one this time. And intent, is it this one we just
Yeah,
created?
but then yeah.
And then the type, pending intent dot, which was the one flag did you use?
Flag one shot.
Flag one shot, yeah. So that way it is available and used only once. Okay, perfect. Okay, all right. Let's see if someone else wants to walk us through how to add the button.
All right.
Who would like to do that? How to add the button to the notification? Anybody? Okay, who's got the button working? Okay, Harry, I know you are having difficulty speaking, so I don't want to make you speak. Someone else, please. Let's spare Harry. All we need is to add the button here. So I want the steps that you took. Okay, let's go with you, Ravi. You're going to have to do that too.
All right. So just add action,
Add action. Yeah.
and then, yeah, just click the first one.
How many we
Yeah,
need?
there are three parameters I think we
Yes.
need to add. So first one will be like from the resource is drawable, like over image.
So we can use an existing image for now, right?
Yeah,
To add an image.
yeah. I added the like same one for the notification icon. We use the image asset. So
Okay.
I created a new one and named it the burden intent.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea is you can have as many images if you have different types of notification actions. You're now setting it for the action, right? So
Yeah.
if you have an action called reply and another action called dismiss or delete or whatever, you can associate different icons and show them here.
Mm.
Okay, and the title.
Get screen.
So this is a string, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you did get string. Okay.
I declared the value in the string files.
Let's do that. Let's do that properly. That's the right way to do it. We could type a string there, but it is always preferable to do it here so that it can, be used in when you're localizing your app, translating. What's the name?
I named it burden intent. Whatever you want.
I'm just going to call it notification action one or action okay, right? And we'll give it the text okay.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So we'll go back here and we'll do r dot string dot notification action okay, right?
Yeah.
What's the third argument?
I call the pending intent burden.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good. So this should, when we run, we should see a button.
Yeah.
Okay, it's still installing. Now it's done. All right, let's see what happens. Yes, yes, sure thing. Can anybody in the meantime figure out how to make this editor break lines just like it does in Xcode? So the action is here. By default, it is coming in as hidden, but it is there. And what we want now is when we say OK, we want that message to appear here in the logcat. Let's do it again. So here it is coming. If you notice, message received. What we did do is we passed it an extra, the system time. So we will extract it from the intent and see if we can get it to display here. So this is the extra name we used, extra duration milliseconds. Is everybody done with this? Okay. Window. Okay, so in our broadcast receiver, we've got this same intent that we passed over here as an argument. So what we can do is message received at, and from here we can just get the intent dot get long extra is what we want. Because that information we supplied it was saved as a long. And we used the name intent dot extra duration millis. And in addition to that, every time you get an extra, it wants a default value. So in case that information was not available with the intent, what should it be? So this was your question, Ravi, right? How to display it.
Yeah,
So all you need is this line of code here.
yeah, I got it.
Since we are only displaying it, we can just display it. But let's say you wanted to use it for something else. Then you could save it in a variable and use it in your code logic.
All right.
Okay, run it and tell me if you see it in the message along with the message received. You should see the time at which the notification was generated. Time, it's going to be a long uh, integer. Right. Is it working?
Yeah, it's working. But the time it shows, yeah, it shows in milliseconds, like
Yes,
when
because we used that system time in milliseconds. You could use a date class and format it and put it in as an extra, string extra, and then you could just get a string extra here. So really the way we put it in is the way we are getting it out. We could display it as, we could do a date format here, for example.
so
Like we
can
did
you
in that
can
chat
you just
room.
show us like if we want to create a
If you
different
want
type
to
like
display the
yeah
time,
no if we want to display like any number like if we are having a calculation in our app and
uh-huh.
we just want to show that calculation result in the uh, notification when we click the notification.
Okay, let's do that. Let me just see. Hamza, you just sent a message that I want to do that. Editor line break. File settings, editor code style. Okay. Let me do this, Ravi, because this code, when it
All
has
right.
long lines, it gets hidden. Editor code style.
It didn't work for me. I just tried. It didn't work.
Okay, hard wrap at 100 columns. Let me make it, let's say
That is what I changed.
80. Okay,
What if you do wrap on typing?
let's see what it does. It didn't work?
No, it didn't work for me.
Yeah, it doesn't
The
seem to
line
work.
moved, but the text didn't wrap.
Yeah, it did not work here also. Okay, we'll find a way. If you find a way later on, please email me and we will do it so that it makes it easier for the class, everybody to see what is there. Otherwise, either the left or the right gets hidden as you move it. Okay, let's go back to what Ravi asked. So, Ravi, your question is you want to pass some information instead of the system time, you want to pass, let's say, notification some other pertinent information, a user ID. Is that your question? How to handle that?
Yes, yes.
What we'll do is we'll put an extra. Let's see if they have. Okay, you could, instead of using the system things, let's define our own type of extra, right? So we'll declare a private static final string and we'll call it user ID. And this can be any string as long as it is defined is all that matters. So we have now our own a constant called user ID. And in our extra, we are going to use this now. So we are passing this user ID and we'll give it a value. Right, so whatever user ID you have, you want to pass user 1234. So it could be that you have received and let's create another one. Let's create another, and in fact, I don't think private is the right scope for this. We want it to be at least available in the package, but let's make it public because we will be retrieving those extras in our broadcast receiver and we want to be able to use these names, these variables. Right? So this gives us user ID and message, two constants, and we will add them both here. So let's say we are simulating here now. You have received a notification, a remote notification, which came with these two values, that this user sent you a message and at this time, right? All this information could have come remotely. So what we want to do now is on the other side, we can do things like, okay, this user sent this message, let's add it to a local database. This is exactly how WhatsApp works. When you receive a message, it keeps a local database. It will add it to that database. All these things, who sent it, when they sent it, and what the message was. So we have set it up here. Now, when we are receiving the broadcast, okay, let me just stay here. I just want to wait here for a few seconds so everybody has a chance to add this in their code. These are the two constants we declared, and these are the two lines of code. Now, in our broadcast receiver, so these were the lines we added. In the broadcast receiver, we'll retrieve them. So from the intent, we'll do get. It's of type string, so we'll use this get string extra. And we will use the name, user ID. And how do we access it? We just go main activity dot user ID. Because it's a public static variable. It's available to us without instantiating main activity. In the same way, we'll get the message that was sent by the user. Again, get string extra and main activity dot message. we also get the timestamp. Instead of putting it here, I'm just now going to repeat that get long extra. So these are the three things we have retrieved, right? And here you could take actions like put username, message, and timestamp in a local database. If you have one, this is just an example of an action. This is how you would receive. So this, what happened here, we did it locally. This could have been done remotely. File settings editor, general tab, and use soft wraps in editor. Okay, perfect. That sounds good. Just bear with me a second, guys. We'll do this. Let me just undo this part in general. Use soft wraps.
So in
Hamza?
yeah, this is the one but in the extension I added Java extensions as well. I don't know whether it's needed, but I did.
Very good. Thank you. So then I have to reopen the files. Is that it? For it to do the magic?
What I did was I just resized the editor, then it automatically wrapped. In your case, it has not. I don't know.
Okay. So you resized it. So, oops. Let
Yeah,
me try that.
resize the editor, then it wrapped automatically without anything.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, it worked for me though.
It might be one of those things that you have a Windows or a Mac?
Mac.
Mac. Okay. Okay. Well, doesn't seem to do the trick. Anyway, thank you, Hamza, for trying. Let's continue with this. So this is how you would do it, Ravi. Does it help?
Yeah, it helps a lot. Like I'll just copy this code and see to implement it on my app.
So for example, here in our log message, we could just say message received from username, message is, and we could display the message at what time. So right now our timestamp is an integer, but if it is fairly straightforward to convert it to something like Monday, 15th of June at 12:04 p.m.
Okay.
Okay, so this is what we wanted to do. Let's just give it a trial run here. So now when I'm going to trigger a notification, and then when I say okay, I want to see that message, this log output. There it is, message received from user this, message is this at this time. That's the general idea of how to pass information through notifications. All right. Any questions so far? Okay. Let's continue. So we did what we set out to do. We added a tap action, this part, and we added other action. So just like we added that one button, in Android, I believe you're allowed to add up to 3 actions. So you can add multiple of those in a similar manner. Android also allows you to add a progress bar. So let's say you're downloading a file and you want to show what's going on, you could do that as well. This part we haven't looked at, how to show the notification expanded instead of a small icon. This is something you asked Hamza at the end of the last class. If I remember correctly, you asked how to do this. I'm not going to do that now. I would like to leave some things as a homework, so maybe we'll give this to you, you guys as a homework, and then we'll review it in class. Is that okay? What I want to do is I want to get to, thank you. I want to get to push notifications. So what we have done so far is we've seen how to format the notifications, setting a title, content, and an icon where needed, taking action when tapped. Either the notification is tapped or any associated button is tapped. And so far, we have looked at locally generated notifications. Now what we want to do is push notifications. Notifications that are generated remotely somewhere on the internet and they are received by the device. So those are referred to as push notifications, as you all know. So let's do an overview in terms of what are the different ways in which push notifications can be delivered, can be received, etc. Okay. So different platforms have different solutions. Like for example, Apple has something called Apple Push Notification Service. This was launched right after the iPhone came out within a few months. And this was, I think, one of the biggest things that changed. I mean, of course, iPhone itself was a tremendous change from how we looked at the internet, how we browsed the internet. But the ability for a communication to originate and in real time come to a device, this is what notifications gave. Before that, it was, you received emails, right? But you would have to, in the old days, dial up connections. You would dial up and you would log on, and then you will see, okay, I have an email. And then with broadband, people were more connected all the time. But even then, you had to go to your computer, open your email program. If it was already running, it might, blurt out you have mail or something like that. But again, most of it was your side. From your side, you were checking. Is there a mail? Yes or no? Is there a mail? Yes or no? And you could set the frequency and all that. With push messaging, that changed. The server on the internet could originate a message that would be received on your device. So Apple did that, and Google came up with their own messaging. They started in 2010 with some version of it on the Android, and they've changed a few times. So there are third-party frameworks for this. We'll look at it in a bit. What I want to do right now is I want to have an open discussion about what exactly happens. How do push notifications work? So I've divided it into 4 sections. setup, origination, receipt, and processing. So what is required in setting up a push notification? Then feel free to unmute yourself and talk.
Sorry, I actually have a question about the push notification. I just got a little bit confused. So, for example, like Instagram, if someone like my post, then I get a notification, right? Like
Yes.
some people like my post, I get a notification. So this kind of notification is a push notification or local notification?
So see, you get that notification even when your Instagram app is not running, right?
Yes.
So it is a push notification. What is happening is there are two possibilities. When your app is running, the app could be checking if there is something and then it could generate locally. Although it is getting data from remotely, but it's generating the notification locally. But in the case, in most cases, your apps are not running yet, you're receiving the notifications related to those apps because they're all originating somewhere on the internet. The Instagram servers are sending a notification to your device,
Okay. Cool.
and your device is popping it up, which is
Yeah, I wanted to talk about setup today. It's basically with local notification, since it requires you to keep running your phone in the background and stuff. So a lot of notifications that we receive, usually like most of the notifications that we receive on our phones are push notification because they originate somewhere from the server. So likes and most of only like very limited notification, like with the alarm and stuff, that's very limited to your phone, would be local notification, but most of them would be push notification that run on server, and they use multiple trigger things to trigger the notifications.
yeah. Let me just pause here for a minute. Michelle, you said you're getting an error.
Yes,
Okay.
in the log. I don't know how to send you a screenshot in the chat. Can you do that? You send screenshots?
I'm not sure if you can send anything other than text here.
Okay.
Would you like to share your screen?
I
I
I'm not sure how to do that. I've got one computer with the Android Studio, and I'm in the meeting on the other computer. So
Oh, okay, then yeah, that won't be possible.
it's
Okay, what is
tricky.
the error?
It says goldfish address space host memory allocation IOCTL or 1_ ping failed for device _ type equals 5 ret
Okay.
equals 1
Okay.
or -1.
Maybe it's so the app compiles and gets installed.
Yeah, it does show the other stuff. It says the message received and all that from you.
Okay, I
But
see.
about 3 things above that, it's got an error on the
So in that error message, see if you analyze any error message, right? You will see where it originated, which app. Sometimes the system has lots of things going on, right?
yeah.
And there are messages from the operating system, there are other things. So those may not concern us,
Okay. This
right?
one's from E/EGL code C common.
Okay, so it's not from our app. It could be that the emulator from the message itself, it's something to do with memory allocation, right?
Right.
So my guess is that the emulator is trying to allocate memory or it needs more memory or something like that is going on.
Okay.
So
So
it's
not to worry about it.
not to worry about it. Yeah, unless it's coming from your app, you can, mostly ignore those.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. It's a good thing to know. All right. So main question here in push notifications is what is happening? How exactly? Let's go back to Harry's example. How does Instagram know how to message Harry on his device? What has the app done to enable that? That part is the setup. That's what
It's
I want.
registered him. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, what was that?
I said it's registered him to that app.
So there is a registration, right? Of the so registration, and that one component is that he has an account, right? If Harry doesn't have an Instagram account, even if he has the Instagram app, nothing would come to his phone, and he has to be logged into that app. So there is a user account, right? That's one part. What else happens to enable this? So how does the Instagram server know that that is Harry's device and the app on his device, and it doesn't by mistake send it to someone else, to Ravi or
So I think they actually identify that just by account.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
I don't think they just identify that by the phone. They just identify by the account. If you think about the backend, it's like they have a API, right? Someone just click the like button, then the API say, oh, this guy click on this post. Like suppose they all have the ID, right? Then they just send a notification to my account side like user ID who click the button on your post ID something.
yes, yes. So very good, Harry. Let's continue on that logic. So somebody clicked a like button on your Instagram post. Instagram servers know that this is your post, so they want to send you a notification. Now there are, 2 or 3 billion phones in the world, or maybe more. How does the Instagram server know which phone is yours? Just like we have a phone number, right? How does it know that this is how the message will go to Harry?
I'm just thinking, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there's like a sub-pub kind of an architecture. Like, when someone likes, Instagram will, all the devices will be subscribed to some messaging queue in Instagram server.
Yes.
When someone likes, they'll post a message here there, and all subscribed devices, if it is related to that particular device, it's gonna fetch the details. I don't know, I'm not sure.
Yes, you're on the right track. So it's the same thing. Now, certain notifications you are subscribed to, like let's say when Harry creates or anybody creates an Instagram account and they subscribe to what kind of activity they want to be notified of, a like or a reply or whatever. All of that is managed through when you install an app on your device, the operating system in conjunction with the service. So if we're talking about Android, Google has a push notification service. Together, a unique ID is created for that. So this is at the app level. And then when you install the app and when you log on to your account, what happens is that that unique ID is sent to the Instagram servers along with your user ID. So that is stored in the database, in the remote database. Unique ID for notifications, So now what happens is that when you get an activity that you are to be notified of, Instagram servers goes and says, okay, I need to send a message to Harry. what is the device ID, the unique ID of, and you can have multiple, you could have your Instagram app on multiple devices. So, and if the Instagram service supports that, some services don't, like WhatsApp, you can have only on one device associated with one phone number. But Instagram, maybe you can have on multiple devices. Then it will retrieve the unique ID for whatever unique ID it has. If it has multiple, it will retrieve multiple. And it tells Google, okay, this is a message for this unique ID. And now Google knows the reverse process. It says, okay, this unique ID belongs to that particular device for that particular app. And it sends a message to your phone. This is what is happening in the background. So whenever you want to use a push notification, this is what your app needs to do. It needs to associate, whether you have a user account or not. If you want to target a device with notifications, you have to get this unique ID. There is a handshake between your installation of the app on that device and the Google servers, or in case of iOS, the Apple servers, and the unique ID is retrieved within the app. You pass that unique ID along to your servers. You could envisage a scenario where you don't even care who is using the phone. You just want to, whoever installs your app, you want to be able to send them, broadcast a message. So you just store that series of unique IDs somewhere in your, on your server or on the cloud. And if you have a pairing, if you have a user ID associated with each ID, then you will have a database in which you store all the information about the user, not just you will not use it just for this. You may have things like what is the user's password, what is their phone number, what is, whatever else, what is their purchase history, if it's an e-commerce site. So that gives you the ability to at any time go into your database and say, okay, I want to send a message to this user or to all of these users. Like you said, Hamza, that pub sub mechanism. So if, you posted a question somewhere, a post on Instagram, and somebody replied, and then someone else replies, and maybe the first person who replied also wants to receive notifications. So all of those users will get added. They'll become sort of subscribers of that queue. And Instagram knows what is the unique ID for each of those users, and it is able to talk to those devices. So this is the setup part. Does it make sense? We'll do this. We'll see. We will do this. Hopefully, we'll be able to do a bit of this today and see how it works. So that is the setup. Then comes the origination. How does a message originate remotely? Now, there may be trigger conditions, like one example of somebody liking a post. There may be other triggers. Whatever your app is, depending upon that app and its functionality, you may have triggers that will generate notifications. Somebody's membership may be about to expire, and you have a cron job that checks every 3 hours whose membership is expiring in the next 24 hours and sends them a message. So those kind of things. And then based on a trigger, the mechanism we already talked about, your server or your cloud function or whatever way you have implemented will ask the Google servers, send the unique ID of the device and say, okay, here is a message for that device. Right, so from your own server to Google push notification, and then it comes. Then what happens? In that chain, now the message has been, a trigger condition has happened. Your server sent a message to the Google push notification service that, hey, this is what I want to go to such and such device plus app combination. Then what happens at that time is that the Google servers send that message to your app on your device. There is one unique ID for each device plus app combo. So if you are receiving, and you do receive on multiple devices, if you have Gmail or something, excuse me. So you will get those messages. And then what happens is, we already saw that part. When the message comes, you need a broadcast receiver. And the message will be delivered to your app into this on receive function, it will come. And this is where you will handle it, just like we did here. So a lot of these things, the intent, the way it is built, what is contained in the message, all of that is predefined, how it will come to you. So it is received by the app through the broadcast receiver. And then your app does whatever it needs to do. In case of push notifications, sometimes you may want to do nothing. You may not even want to show an alert to the user. If it was meant to be an update that is not critical, or some question that your app had asked which is being answered, like let's say a notification comes in that says this is the latest version of this app, right? Now that notification may come to your device, and your device may check, okay, I already have this version, I have the latest version, so I don't need to do anything. It just silently ignores the notification. So that is one option. The other option is you show an alert. So these are the steps, that this is what exactly happens when, how push notifications work. Any questions here?
I am confused about the silent notification uses. So is it like you want to receive something and then you just trigger a notification? Or why can't you use this database, or like check if the new operating system or version is available instead of
So-
sending notification?
So what happens, Shahrukh, is push notifications are delivered to your device even when the app is not running on your device, right? And let's say you haven't even started the app for several days. Even in that case, push notifications may come, and you may, you may want them.
Mm.
So the use case I said, it's just, I'm sort of that, it's a made up use case in a way. You may not have to do that. You may do that check when the users, anytime the user starts that app. Sometimes, in the case of these mobile apps, the operating system does that check for you anyway. And it depending upon your settings, your apps keep getting updated as well.
Yeah.
So this is, there are other possible use cases. You may have notifications. Let's say, in WhatsApp, you can mute notifications, right?
Yes.
From a certain user, but not all WhatsApp notifications. So this is not an app-wide setting on the phone, but WhatsApp knows that if such and such group or user has an activity, I don't need to alert the owner of the device, right? But it will still record it. It will show that badge with new messages, but it won't
Yeah.
produce an alert.
So those are silent notification, you're saying?
Yes. So
Okay.
information is being received, but the alerts are not being shown.
Makes sense.
All of that will happen here. Okay, any other questions? Okay, good. So we talked about what exactly happens. There are different ways of doing this. One is using native functionality. So you could write an app, an Android app, for example. There are function calls available to you. You make those function calls, the request goes to the Google servers, it comes back and you get that unique ID. You take that unique ID, you save it on your server. And on your server, whenever there is a trigger for the notification, you call the endpoint that Google gives you. It is like an HTTP post request. You make that request, and then Google handles it from then on. How to deliver to your device and whatever needs to happen in your app happens. That's one way of doing it. Same with iOS, you could get a device ID and work with it. There is another way, which is to use a third-party framework. Now, how does that work? So the process is very similar to what I just talked about, but now you've got an intermediary. So this third-party server, so instead of making a call to the Google server, you make a call to this third-party server and say, this app just got installed on this device. I need a unique ID for this. So this third-party server, what it does is, it will then from there, it will communicate with Android servers, the Google servers, and get that unique ID and map it to the unique ID that it itself generates for you. And it sends you what it itself has generated. And then it's got a mapping. The advantage of this is that it allows you cross-platform messaging, meaning you don't need to separately implement iOS and Android. You could just, this third-party server, you could say, okay, this is an Android app. And then from the Android iOS app, you again say, okay, this is an iOS app. And at that time, the third-party server communicates with the Apple servers and creates a mapping of its internal ID to the Apple ID. So what that is doing is it gives you a way to set up something that allows you to use one framework to generate messages for Android and iOS. So when you want to send a global message, let's say you want to send it to 10 different people, 5 of them are using Android, 5 of them are using iOS. Your servers don't need to bother with, having two methods. Okay, this guy's iOS, use this method, this guy's Android, use this. No, your server will have those 10 third-party IDs and say, send this message. And that server knows what is Android, what is iOS. So you're making your life easier. So it gives you cross-platform, and it is a bit easier to set up as well. You don't need to learn different mechanics of the Apple setup and Google setup. You just learn one. And ultimately, you could even run it serverless. The newer services are like that. On top of that, if you're building an application, a lot of it today you can do in the cloud. So there will be other tools that come with that messaging service, such as database, cloud functions, storage, even some form of web hosting, everything like that may be included. So the preferred way more and more is to use a third-party framework. Do you guys know of any?
Yeah, I know Cloud Functions.
So in terms of messaging, yes, Michelle is saying Firebase. Firebase messaging is one. What else?
There's Amazon one as well, AWS.
Amazon's, yes, Amazon Web Services. Their service, I think it's called Simple Notification Service. And they may have more than one actually. So this is by Amazon AWS.
There could be Microsoft as well, I think. There is, maybe.
There might be. See, these are the two that I am aware of. And I'm sure that there may be even more than 3. So these are some examples. What we will do is we'll look at how to do this for Firebase Cloud Messaging, how to set it up and how to use it. And we'll use Firebase. It is one of the more popular messaging platforms, and it allows us to do a bunch of things for free. So we don't get into creating additional. Most of you already who were in the class last semester already used something like this when we did the maps activity. So our setup will be smoother, easier. So this is what we are going to do. So in our same project, we are going to add Firebase usage. This point, you're going to have to follow along all the steps. Let me copy this link and paste it in the chat. So has anybody done this before? Setting up Firebase in their app? Okay, so Michelle is familiar.
I did it in React Native, but like very long time ago. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Let's look at it together, right? So I'm going to open this page. Oops. It's actually pretty straightforward. Their steps are very nicely laid out. So prerequisite, install or update Android Studio to its latest version. So I hope that this is already the case. Make sure that your project meets these requirements, targets API level 16 or later. How do we check this? And don't worry, if you miss this step, later on it will complain and it will tell you exactly how to change it. Where do we look for our target API level in our project?
In Gradle.
Yes, so in one of the Gradle scripts, so you have your project level Gradle file, which has the settings relevant to the project, and then you have the app level Gradle. And within this, you will see there is min SDK version. This is what they're talking about. They want it to be 16. Ours is 15. Let's change it to 16. And whenever you edit this file, you will see this notification here. Gradle files have changed and it wants to resync. So you just say sync now and it will do whatever it does quietly and it will go away. So that's our first step. Use Gradle 4.1 or later. You know what? We are just going to assume that we have this. And if we don't, the Firebase project, the Firebase framework will complain and it will even tell us, it will give us ways to fix it. So there are 2 ways to connect your Android app, the app you are developing, to Firebase using one of the following options. So there is an option to use console setup workflow and the other one is manual. We won't do that. We'll use the option 1, the first option. So the first thing it wants you to do is to create a Firebase project. So all of you have Google accounts, I imagine. What you want to do is you want to go to, from this page, expand this, create a Firebase project and click on the Firebase console. So it will show, perhaps it will show this screen. If you don't see this screen, maybe you see something else and there is a link that says console here. And that is if you're logged in. If you're not logged in, you will need to log in first using your Google account. Okay, so everybody up to the point where you can add a project. And when you're adding a project, it wants a name. So use your initials and notifications demo, notifications project, whatever you want to call it. I'm calling it notifications demo. I had another project which I just used for testing, but I'm going to follow this entire process so you get to see this as well. Okay, once you type the name and if it is acceptable, it will allow you to continue. Sometimes, because this name has to be unique in the entire Google Firebase universe. So if somebody else has that name, you won't be able to use it. So just change it, add some characters, add a number at the end. And then once you have an acceptable name, you say continue. And then it will ask you whether you want to enable Google Analytics for your project. When you include the Firebase framework in a project, it comes with a lot of bells and whistles. You may or may not want them. Your privacy policies may be such that you cannot use them. So depending upon that, you may enable or disable this. So what happens is that even if you're not using any of the Firebase features, like you included the framework, but you forgot to use it, then it starts sending all the information about your app usage to Google. And Google can give you access to these reports. So we're just going to leave it enabled. We're not developing, we don't have any such concerns right now. So we'll just leave it enabled. We might actually get something out of it. We might be able to see some of these reports later on. So then you say continue. Oh, I see. Okay. It wants a Google Analytics account. So I'm just going to disable it. I don't want to create a digression here. So I went back and disabled it, and now I'm going to say create project. So this will create a Firebase project, which means it will reserve the whatever name we chose in the Google universe of Firebase project names and whatever other setup it needs to do to give you access to messaging and Firebase functions and everything else that comes with Firebase. You will have all of that. And once it is ready, you will say continue. Okay. So you should see this screen. Anybody not at this screen? Okay, this is important because once you are here, it will give you three options here. See these three right somewhere in the middle of the screen, it says iOS, Android, and web. So Firebase apps can be deployed on iOS, Apple devices, on Android, or on the web using any browser. So we are going to click on Android. As soon as you do that, it is going to ask you to register your app. So it wants, the first thing it wants is...
I have a small question there, sir.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. So those three options, let's say we have an app which interacts with a backend and does all this. In that case, is it going to be web?
No, web apps are where you trigger a notification, for example. Let's take notifications as an example. You know, when you're browsing the internet these days, many websites will ask you a question, do you want to receive notifications?
Yeah.
Right? And if you say yes, your browser starts receiving notification.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
a phone,
Okay.
it's a browser. You could do it on your computer.
Okay. So basically, this is not from where we'll be pushing the notifications.
No, this is where
Oh,
you're
okay.
receiving, where you want to receive, sort of.
Oh, okay.
Register that.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, also what Hamza said, so notifications are usually received directly. If you're using Firebase, you would receive directly from Firebase to your phone rather than first getting to your server and then managing what to send, because like that's adding an additional layer. You don't need that for notifications.
So yeah, depending upon what application it is, how you are set up, you may or may not actually need that at all. Sometimes, complex applications where you have, take, one of these WhatsApp, Instagrams as an example, even if they're using Firebase messaging, they will maintain their own infrastructure. So,
I have a question also.
yes, Misha.
If say you're making an app and you want it to be on all three of those platforms, do you have to do them one by one, or can you select all?
You have to do them one by one.
Okay.
It asks different questions,
Okay.
right? And
Thanks.
process is different. So let me just show you. When you click on Android, you see these different steps. And let's look at iOS and see what questions it is asking. See, there are 5 steps now. It's slightly different. App Store ID. It did not ask us that. So what we'll do is we will see here it is asking debug signing certificate. We'll register our Android app, and what it wants, the first thing it wants is the package name, and here it tells you where your package name is. Your package name is generally the application ID in your app level build.gradle file, and this has to be an exact match. Otherwise, your app will not get registered. So the same build.gradle we have open where we changed this, you want to copy and paste. You want to have any typos. So copy this application ID from here. And paste it here. And give it a name. Whatever name you feel like you can give it. And the rest is optional. We won't bother with the certificate. And then you say register app. So it's going to do whatever it needs to do. And then it moved on to step 2. And now these are the steps to complete registration. You download this Google services.json file. So click on the download and the file will go and sit in your downloads folder. Then what it is saying is move the Google services file you just downloaded into your Android app module root directory. So we want to drag and drop it on this where it says app. So let's do that. So 2 things. How you will do it is first arrow you see, you have to change the display here to project. So that's what you will do. First thing you change this where it says Android, you change this to project. Okay, and then you expand until you see your app folder. And now from your downloads, you grab that file and drop it on the app. And it is asking move file to directory. You see app. You should see this. If it doesn't say app at the end, you've got a problem. You can just cancel and do it again. Okay. And this will add it and it will appear here. Okay. I have my file. I already had a Google services.json in my download, so the operating system renamed it to Google Services 2. It may not happen to you, so you don't need to do this, but I definitely need to rename this file and refactor it. Okay. All right. Everybody up to this point? We're almost there. It'll take us another couple of minutes, and then we will have Firebase set up in our app. So now you do next, and there are some checks. It is asking us project level build.gradle. You check if this repository is there, Google. So you'll find that this is there, but this line here, dependencies, we need to add Google services. So copy this line. Just click on that copy button and it will copy the line. And let's go back to this project level build Gradle file, and we'll see. You need to check if this Google repository is there in both the places, in build script as well as in all projects. And we'll paste this under dependencies. So now we will change this display back to Android, and we'll go to build this one. So you see that Google is here, the repository, and it's here as well. So all we will need to do is just copy that. And you say sync now. It's going to sync, it's going to do whatever it does. Then the next two lines, we have to check if this in the app level build.gradle, we need to copy this line. So we pasted here. The first line from the previous step, we pasted here under dependencies. There is already another line which is similar, class path something just below that. And now the second part we have to paste in the app level Gradle. And it starts, you take a look again at the documentation, it says that there is this line at the top, which we have com.android.application, and below that we add this line, we just copy from here. So we'll add it here. And then you sync again, and that will do the job. Add SDKs for desired Firebase products. So you say next at that point, and then you say continue to console. So there we have this setup, we have the app here. There's another step which I did not see. Anybody see that it checks live whether your link is active or not?
Mine is a little bit different. After I click next, it says run your app to verify installation. And now it's checking if the app is communicated with the server.
Yeah, anybody see that as well?
Yeah, it's still running. I have to install the app and do it. I don't know why it didn't.
Yeah, I have no idea why it did not ask me that. Still running. So what you have to uninstall the app and reinstall it. And on top of that, you have to include here. Let me open this page again. Anyway, we are almost out of time here. All right, guys. So what we'll do is there is another step that you may need to do, Shahrukh, Harry, which is to include this line in your app level build.gradle Firebase Analytics. So once you add this SDK, then it will become active. So this is the last step here. You add this, and now you have actually included the Firebase SDK. And now when you run this app, you should be able to resolve that link. Okay. Oh, sorry, I went over by 4 or 5 minutes. I wanted to do this today, at least leave you at a more logical point. So next time what we'll do is we'll see how to use this, how to create notifications remotely, how to process them on the device and all of that. And don't worry, if you had any difficulty with the last part here, we will look at it next time. Okay. Any questions, guys? All right. Do you guys have a class at 1? Do some of you have a class at 1 o'clock?
No, our next class is at 7.
Okay. Okay. All right, good. So I'll see you guys in the next class then. Bye.